Broadcast is live.
Good morning. Good morning.
And welcome to the Ronnie and Bonnie Show.
We are on Facebook group, another Facebook group, and we're live on YouTube.
Cool. Well, what are we talking about today?
Oh, yeah. So, where have all the vehicles gone?
I made up that title. I just want to take credit for it.
I think it's the best title we've ever had.
Thank you. I think so too.
I just need to get out of the way and let people do what they do.
Which is to make titles.
Yeah. Things happen.
Anyway, what we're talking about here is why is there such a vehicle shortage? Why is it that if you are looking for, say, a truck or, heaven forbid, a diesel truck, it's so difficult to find one right now?
Well, we're going to talk about it and dissect it a little bit. You were talking about things with Toyota, for instance, like, the basic, the earthquake has definitely affected it. But what people may not know is before the earthquake, the inventory was already impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been kind of crazy that as soon as the pandemic started and the factories started shutting down, what people don't also realize is that the supplier factories also shut down. And so it's gotten better that factories are open again, but there's a glitch in the supply chain. Right now, it happens to be microchips. Microchips are they just can't get enough microchips. So there's something like a slowdown there's 450,000 vehicles that would be out there, but aren't because of this microchip shortage. And they're expecting it to continue until it's 1.3 million vehicles that you could not get because there was a microchip shortage. And people are starting to point fingers. Volkswagen is blaming the suppliers and saying that it's going to stop doing business with the suppliers and go right to the manufacturers. And the suppliers don't like that naturally. And it'll be an interesting drama to watch play out. Because, in business, there's always lots of good drama. You don't really need made up drama. We've got plenty of real drama right here.
They say truth is always better than fiction.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's where you get the fiction, is by watching the truth. That's and the other big news was that there was an earthquake over the weekend. It was a 7.3 on the Richter scale earthquake in Japan. And for those of you who are old enough to remember, about 10 years ago, there was a terrible, terrible earthquake in approximately the same place that resulted in a tsunami and also destroyed a nuclear plant. So it's kind of a big deal. This one didn't cause as much damage. There was no tsunami. However, it did cause the Toyota factory in Japan to shut down. So
oh my goodness. It was like it was designed just to shut down the factory.
It almost seems that way. So apparently they make 28 different types of vehicles, many of which are sold in Japan. So you would think that it wouldn't affect us so much, but unfortunately it will, because it is also going to affect the RAV4 and the C8, or is it the CHR? The CHR, as well as most of the Lexus models, the NX, the UX, the RX, the LSC, the IS. A lot of the Lexus models are also made in that factory, and so it's going to be shut down for at least a week. They don't really know how long that will be.
That's going to be very interesting. I think that I'd like to share what's going on in the used car industry, right? I want to share the screen, and let's take a look at this graph. Okay, we're going to pick a different screen. Oh boy, I'm having problems.
Oh, I liked your interlude music. You could continue to sing.
Do. You see this screen?
I see it.
I see where my mouse is. Like, that's 100% of value, right?
Can't see the mouse, but the 100% of value is just about in the middle.
Look at the date. So we had a big crash right when COVID hit on April 1st.
Yeah, and you can see how the prices. This is what this is showing you. It's a calculated average of the value of used vehicles. So 100% is usually where it is. You would get a used vehicle and you would look at this MMR chart and say, okay, well, this vehicle is worth about what we think it's going to be worth. But then it went way down. So they were worth for a little while, worth less than they typically would be. But then everything changed.
Well, let's talk about that because, listen, this graph shows that big dip, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the used car market, they were trading at about 102% of their value up until April 1st. And then it had a crash. But check it out, guys. The bottom of that graph is 90%. It was like 91% of their original value at the very lowest. So when people talk about crash, I'm like, man, if that would have dropped to like 60%, maybe that would have been a crash. But like this thing only really went down to 90. And then you can see how it immediately bounced back on 5/1 and it started trading at like 104%. Then it peaked at like 105. And now if you follow that graph, that used car market is strong all year for the closeout of the 2020. And for the beginning of the year, it's starting to creep back up. So it's still over 100% for like the last 12 months. So like it's not really changing that much.
No, it isn't. And it's interesting why that is. The reason, like when COVID first hit, a lot of people said that the car market would actually crash.
Yeah.
That, suddenly your vehicle that was $14,000 would be $7,000.
People aren't going anywhere. They're not driving. That's what they were saying,
That's the expectation. But what actually happened, there were two things. One was that because of the shortage of new vehicles, a lot of people did not lose their jobs. So they were continuing to buy cars. And when they couldn't get new cars, so they would buy newer used cars because those were available. So of course the prices started to go up. But the other thing that surprised me, I had predicted the first thing, but what surprised me was that a lot of people who didn't have cars decided they wanted cars, that they no longer were willing to take public transportation.
Oh yeah, that was something that was unexpected. Like they didn't want to be on the bus with people.
Right.
Or carpooling.
Right. So you do actually see a lot of new cars out there, and that's one of the reasons that you're seeing not necessarily new cars, newer used cars, but it's you'll see temporary plates. And one of the reasons there's so many of them is because a lot of people who just didn't have cars decided that they didn't want to take public transportation anymore. You might not see it so much in Colorado Springs, but of course the car market is national. So, we might buy cars from New York or cars from San Francisco or any place else. Places that have good public transportation and people were using it until this crisis.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing too, guys, is like the new car inventory. If you're looking for a car within the next 90 days, you probably got to start right now and start looking at it because if you want to get what you want, like the right color, the right equipment, because it's not as bad as toilet paper was in April of 20. But it's pretty difficult, to get exactly what you want in a short time frame. So this video is just for information. So it's like just put that down, earmark it. You're going to need to take a little bit more time researching and figuring out what you like, so that you have enough time to get exactly what you want.
That's right. And in most cases, you can, if you have enough time, you can order what you want. 10
weeks. It takes about 10 weeks or so.
Yeah.
10 to 12, couple of months to order exactly what you want and get it done.
Right.
And, add or subtract a few weeks because it could take a little bit longer. But if you plan properly, it's really not a big issue.
Right. Right. You can absolutely, it just takes more time than it used to. And it's the same with used cars that, used cars pop up on the market all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there's a whole bunch of new used cars, but if you are in a hurry, then you have to take what you can get. And that's not really like, we don't want you to have to do that. We want you to get what you want. So if you're thinking of you're going to need a car in the next few months, this would be a good time to start looking.
Yeah, we're down about 70,000 cars in the auction sites. We're usually at around 350,000. Right now it says 283. So, that's still an awful lot of vehicles, but that's for, the whole country. So
that includes the vehicles that have been in really bad accidents.
And
had hail damage and like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, stuff that needs to be weeded out. So, there's things that are happening in the economy that are changing. Gas prices are starting to creep up. They've been creeping up. I read an article today for about 7 months, so it's not something that's new. I don't think it's driven by the administration, or it's not political to me. It's just they've been going up steadily for the last 7 months.
There is talk about adding gas taxes in this state, but I don't know if it'll pass or not. That is something that might happen. But that's why we talk about hybrids so much and electric vehicles, because that's where they're trying to. The idea is to get people to drive more electric vehicles and even more hybrids.
Yeah, I've been talking to people. So here's something for you. It's just a little nugget. It's like if you're planning on buying a car right now and financing it for a long period of time, do your research. Don't even just listen to me or Bonnie. Like, do your research on what's going to happen in the next 3 years with all of these vehicles. Like, that's the stuff that I have on my mind. If I buy a gasoline operated truck right now, what's going to happen in 3 years?
Yeah.
Ford has a hybrid truck coming out. I mean, it's available now. You have to order it, but it's available. The new Tundra, which isn't getting really good reviews from what I've read, the limited articles I've read, is either having a hybrid version or it's only going to be hybrid. So I don't know yet, but we know it's going to have a hybrid version. And so that's just going to change the values of these trucks and big vehicles that are old dramatically. People are going to have vehicles that get 15 miles to the gallon that tow 8,000 pounds, when other people are going to be driving vehicles that get 36 miles to the gallon and still tow 8,000 pounds. So what's that going to do to the value? So if you're looking at a long-term purchase on a Suburban or Tahoe or something like that, it might be time to pause and take a look and do some research, because we just don't know what's going to happen. It's really volatile.
It is volatile. Yeah. I mean, on one hand, you may have a big group of people who are driving up the prices of gasoline vehicles because they would like gasoline vehicles. On the other hand, historically, what's happened is that when gas prices go up, we tend to buy more fuel efficient cars. Mm-hmm. So if gas prices go way up for one reason or another, then we would expect to see people wanting fewer gasoline vehicles. So it is really difficult to predict.
And it is, we thought that now, like trucks and big things are selling rapidly. And I think there is a segment of society that needs to pull stuff and just doesn't really weigh the gas mileage as a factor. It's like, gas mileage doesn't matter. I still need to pull 8,000 pounds. So no matter how you cut it, it's like they still need to do it. But when they have the option to get 36 miles to the gallon and tow 8,000 pounds, that's when it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to those vehicles and what the graph looks like for those vehicles.
I'm a big fan of hybrids because they can do all those things. Because you still have the gasoline engine and you've got the extra electric motors. And did we talk about the plug-in hybrids last week? I think we might have, where they actually run like an electric vehicle for a certain number of miles, but then you're not stuck because you've also got a gasoline engine. So you could drive around town and never use your gasoline. But then if you decide to drive to, where do people go? Aspen.
Yeah.
And you've got the gasoline engine, and so even if there's no place to charge your battery, it doesn't matter.
We got a question from Nick, who's a buddy of mine. What do you think about this question, Bonnie?
Would you suggest a hybrid for a new driver? Is Trey the new driver?
Trey, yeah, he's going to be a new driver soon.
Oh, exciting!
He's grown so fast. That kid he's like a man now. So.
Oh wow!
They live in Denver, Littleton.
Oh, cool. Oh, if you're living in Denver. So the thing is, I've driven hybrids for 20 years. I had one of the original ones and the original Prius, and they really don't drive that differently than a gasoline vehicle. The difference is really that when you first start the car, you kind of boot it up. You just turn the key and it just boots up. You don't have to like hold it and wait for the engine to turn over. And then a lot of them, they will stop using the engine when you've stopped the car, so that it sounds like the car is stalled, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that your new driver can sort those things out, and it's not a big transition to a gasoline only vehicle. So yeah, I would absolutely suggest a new hybrid, or suggest a hybrid for a new driver, or anyone who's driving a lot in particular, or people who drive in the city. Hybrids are good city cars because when you stop, they stop using energy, and you spend a lot of time stopped when you're driving in the city.
I think you're right. And I think, for Trey, these kids, they don't need a lot of power.
No.
And they don't have a lot of money to fuel up the vehicle. So it's nice. Like Bonnie's vehicle gets like 50 miles to the gallon.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So I I would definitely say, Nick, it'd be a great option to look at a hybrid for Trey. No
Yeah,
doubt.
the other thing that it does, I don't know if they all do this, but a lot of them do, is that the computer is giving you it's giving you information so that you can drive the car so it's more fuel efficient. It's telling you how many miles you're getting and whether you're using the electric motor or the gasoline engine. And so particularly if you've got people like my late husband was an engineer and he would play a game with this, trying to get it to get the highest gas mileage it possibly could. So it can be a really good learning experience for a young person who's interested in fuel efficiency and in any kind of, in preserving the environment. That can be a good thing for a young person like that, to teach how to economize with the car.
The only argument I have against it is, maybe you want him to be out of gas all the time so he's not driving anywhere. It's like, hey, son, you need to cut some more grass to get some fuel for your car. I see you're on empty again. And that's why you're not going to that party tonight,
It's something that gets 8 miles to the gallon.
Yeah. Like you're always I know where you're going to be. You're going to be at home.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't consider that.
You go an awful long way in a hybrid.
Yeah, you can.
On $15,
Yep. Yeah, I know that's the thing that always makes me laugh is people complain about the price of gas. And I don't think I've ever paid more than about $24 for a tank of gas.
Oh, wow.
Really, it just doesn't hold that much because it doesn't need that much.
Yeah. Let's see if you have any other questions. So Danny says that his friend is getting better miles per gallon in his diesel, that he has deleted the DEF.
What is that?
Diesel emission, DEF. Let me look it up. So DEF, not the Russell Simmons variety. Engine.
We're playing Stump the Mechanic.
Diesel exhaust fluid. So I don't really know the technical use of this stuff, but like they have these things in these new vehicles. This blue fluid that you have to put in the vehicle. It has its own reservoir. Wow. And it helps with the diesel emissions. Mm. And so what Danny's saying is his friend is getting better gas mileage now that he's deleted that system. I don't know what that does to your warranty or does to anything, but he has worse gas mileage with the DEF system in the vehicle, which I think I've heard that before, but it also cuts down on emissions. So I guess it depends on where you live. You can't take it off everywhere. It's funny, diesel engines are the only thing in Colorado that are still emissions tested. Mm. Well, in Colorado Springs, they don't do emissions tests on gas vehicles, but they do them on diesel vehicles. So Danny, that might not work here.
Yeah, diesel is known. I mean, that's the problem with diesel. On one hand, it gets great gas mileage. On the other hand, it doesn't. The emissions are a problem. So but I didn't know that they had built in a system to mitigate it. So that's interesting how that, because they do get really good gas mileage. I mean, people love them for that.
They love them for the power, really. I mean, the gas mileage is just a bonus, but I don't think people buy diesels for gas mileage.
No,
because they have so much torque. Like think about RPM at 2,500 RPM in a diesel truck, you can pull 10,000 pounds.
Wow!
And the same size V8 gas motor, it would take 5,500 RPM and do more damage, and it takes more time. Plus, there's less moving parts in a diesel engine because it doesn't require the same types of. It's not the same type of combustion engine. So a regular gas engine is fuel, air, and spark. That's how it explodes. Cylinder goes down, fuel comes in, air comes in, and compression. It has an explosion with the spark at the top. Mm-hmm. Diesels do not have a spark plug. So basically, it's just compression, fuel, and air, just three things. So that's why they're hard to start in the cold. Wow. There's no spark. So they have these things that heat up the cylinders, so that way it'll actually combust when it reaches its threshold.
Okay.
So that's a whole nother video. But diesels just work less, produce much more power, and the other ancillary benefit is it gets a little bit better gas mileage. But everybody buys a diesel except Jay Boykin. He bought one just because he wanted a diesel. And he wasn't pulling much. But most people buy diesels to pull an awful lot of weight. Gas motors will only go so far, and they don't last as long as far as the the life cycle of the engine if you're pulling a lot of weight all the time. It wears the engine out. Diesels, they have a 100,000-mile warranty on them brand new. Did you know that?
I didn't know about the warranty, but I do know that that they do last longer. That if you've got a 100,000-mile diesel, it's not the equivalent of a 100,000-mile gasoline engine.
Totally different beast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we derailed the entire video talking about where all the cars are gone.
It's alive. Why not? But the diesels are hard to find right now, and I'm not sure why that is. I don't know why particularly diesels, but last time I tried to get a diesel truck, they were impossible.
What was the price range?
I can't remember, but I mean, I think we were looking at a new one, but it was just really hard to get.
Yeah, I mean, really nice trucks that have big motors that are 70,000 plus are a little bit difficult to get right now.
Yeah.
You can still get them, but they're a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Danny has another statement. He says, once an electric pickup could go 600 miles under a payload on one charge, I think people will move towards that. Also, charge time has to be low. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, I mean, that's what we're waiting for. You know, we have fast charging phones and stuff like that. But if it takes 3 days to charge your truck, I mean, it's not very efficient. But it's funny because Elon Musk did design these semis that are towing stuff. And like the future is no drivers, right? So basically they load up your stuff on Amazon and the electric truck that tows 55 million pounds and it delivers stuff all over the country, all electric.
Yeah.
All automated, all autopilot. You know, I think they're going to have a driver in it that's asleep, you know. He's just the backup, you know.
Right. Yeah, but I think Danny's right that that's a problem that we have not solved yet. That they can't go far enough, and the charge time does take a long time. I think that's why I'm so excited about the robots that you can. There are these robots where you park your car, like say you go to work and you park your car in the garage, and then you use your phone to alert the charging robot that you are there, and then it goes and finds your car and charges it while you're at work. And I thought that was kind of neat. I like robots.
It goes and finds your car in town somewhere?
It finds it in the garage. Yeah. It just goes and finds it, charges it up for you. And, you know, by the time you get back, it's done. But for the most part, like you still can't stop at a charging station like you stop at a gas station.
Yeah. I mean, there's like even if they get it down to 15 minutes, I saw a little article on that. Even if they get it down to 15 minutes and you're number 6, if you're number, 15 minutes times 4. So if you're number 4 in line, it's an hour before you get even to the machine.
Right.
And then you got another 15 minutes. So it's hour 15. Oh man, I don't know how they're going to get around that.
Yeah, I'm sure the technology will become available. There's all sorts of discussions about how they're going to do that, but we still don't have the infrastructure either, which brings me back to the hybrids. That's why I think the hybrids are such a good solution in the interim.
Yeah, charge themselves, they help each other. You know, it still depends on fuel and oil, but it's the immediate future. I think we're going to see hybrids.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot more. What did I just read? That I'm going to look at this article again. Jaguar is planning to become an all-electric brand by 2025, and Land Rover will be following it down that all-electric road. But they're not talking about hybrids. It's Toyota and Ford and it's like that, like more
4 years from now, less than 4 years.
That's what it says.
All electric.
All electric. And maybe that's where the cars have gone, because there's a lot of shifting to electric. And that takes refitting factories. Yeah, man,
I'm reaching for the answers. Like you said, the infrastructure, like that's great. We all got electric cars, but you know, they're all going to be on the side of the road with no energy.
Right. Well, and that doesn't even, we're not even talking about the issue of the lithium that they need to put in the batteries, that isn't readily available either. So
yeah.
I don't think it's as around the corner as you might think, just reading in the media about it. There's still some significant problems to solve.
Wow. That's so interesting. 2025. I mean, I've heard 2035, but 2025 that's in our lifetime.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping 2035 is in our lifetimes too. But yeah, but that's what the automotive news says is 2025. So, will they be able to do it? I don't know.
It's just leaving me doing this video, searching for more answers.
Right. Yeah, well, it's an exciting time to be working in the automotive field because things are changing
rapidly.
Yeah, and if we were smarter, we would figure out what to invest in based on what we know. But I'm not sure I'm that smart. So
not that smart. No.
No. I'll just wait and see.
Well, I appreciate you guys joining us. It's been about a half an hour, and if you have anything you'd like us to cover, just leave a comment for us. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we will be back every week, Tuesday around 10 o'clock to talk about something automotive or something business related to automotive.
Whatever we think is interesting that day.
Well, you know what, Bonnie, you're right. Whatever we think is interesting that day.
Who knows?
Thanks for joining us, Danny Ramos, Nick Minch. We appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day. Pardon shot, Bonnie?
I got nothing. Stay warm. Stay warm. Don't let your chickens freeze.
The Zoom class. Hey, Danny, you want to join the Zoom class for auto brokers? Hang on a second. Let me see if I can pull up the link. Let's see. There it is. Okay, Danny, I will put this. Still working on how to use this software.
Software is it's a boon and a scourge.
Guess what? I got it. Okay, let me copy this link. Link to join auto broker collaboration. I didn't know you were interested, Danny, but yeah, we'd love to have you. There is the link. So if you fill out that form, we will then send you an invite to the next meeting, which is going to be on February. It may be the 26th, but I'm traveling that day. But possibly the 26th, possibly the 5th. We will, to be determined. To be determined. So, yeah, looking forward to it, Danny. Appreciate you, man. And if you guys have anything for us, drop it in the comments, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a great day.